So, there'll be 15 matching on the names on the ID sheets, and then 15 short answers. We will cover them all today with your help. And I'm going to start with the lovely Andrew Edholm. Andrew, tell me this. Who was the man who was last to be identified in July of 2015 as one of the second flag raisers at Iwo Jima?
How come I didn't get that one?
Harold Henry Schultz.
Harold Henry Schultz is right. I will repeat that again. The man who was last to be identified in July of 2015 as one of the second flag raisers at Iwo Jima, that was Harold Henry Schultz. Juliana? Who was one of the 5 brothers killed on the USS Juno during the battle at Guadalcanal in the initial explosion? There were 3 of them, actually, in the initial explosion.
Frank, Joe, and Matt.
Frank, Joe, and Matt. One of those will be on the testimony. Frank, Joe, and Matt.
What did you call it, the initial hit?
One of the 5 brothers killed on the USS Juno during the battle at Guadalcanal in the initial explosion. You won't have to spell it because it's going to be on the match.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Aurora.
Oh, no.
Who was the Marine first mistaken in the second flag raising at Mount Suribachi, located closest to the base of the American flag? Who was the Marine first mistaken in the second flag raising at Mount Suribachi, located closest to the base of the American flag?
Is it Harlan Block or Henry Oliver?
It's one of the 2. Which one? One was mistakenly identified, and then the other one was
Henry Oliver Hansen.
Henry Oliver Hansen was the Marine first mistaken in the second flag raising at Mount Suribachi, and he was located closest to the base of the American flag. Sully, who was the American admiral who would direct the American strategy in the Pacific against the country of Japan? I should rephrase that. Who was the American admiral who would direct the Allied strategy in the Pacific against the country of Japan?
Wasn't the Chester?
Chester Nimitz is correct. Kyra, who was the Navy corpsman that was misidentified as one of the 6 flag raisers at Mount Suribachi for more than 70 years? In other words, this is the guy that was really not in the picture at all. John H. Bradley, very good. Navy corpsman that was misidentified as one of the 6 flag raisers at Mount Suribachi for more than 7 years. That would be Navy corpsman John H. Bradley. Porter, who was one of the 6 flag raisers at Mount Suribachi that was of Native American descent?
Ira Hayes.
Ira Hayes, very good. Ryan, who was the AP photographer who took the famous photo of the second flag raising on Mount Suribachi at Iwo Jima? Joseph Rosenthal is correct. Yep. AP photographer who took the famous photo of the second flag raising on Mount Suribachi at Iwo Jima. Emily, my dear, who was the Marine who was correctly identified in 1946 as one of the 6 flag raisers closest to the base of the flag? Arlen Block is correct. Again, he was the Marine who was correctly identified in 1946 as one of the 6 flag raisers closest to the base of the flag. Joe, who was the staff sergeant who was the military cameraman that filmed the actual footage of the events at Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima? Bill Janos. Staff sergeant who was a military cameraman that filmed actual footage of the events at Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima. Did you catch that yesterday? The only way they solved the mystery is if they have that film. Because they were able to actually watch Henry Harold Schultz with the strap hanging down and the rifle sling in the wrong place. They watched the person lift it and then walk away and walk, and that's where they saw the rifles when he walked.
Wait, did they have like video film back then?
Yeah, that you saw yesterday.
They didn't have audio or.
No, it's just,
Oh,
it
it's
was,
literally just
It
video.
was a
Yeah.
hand crank.
yeah, it was in, yeah, real,
So
yeah.
like sometimes.
But it was in color, which was pretty impressive for 1945. Yeah, but they don't have, if Bill Janows does not take that video, they've never solved this mystery, okay? All right, here we go. Who did I just talk to? Joe? Okay, Caitlin, my dear. Who was the Marine who was ordered to take a larger American flag to the top of Mount Suribachi and became one of the 6 men in the second flag raising? Renee Gagnon, very good. I'll read that again. Marine who was ordered to take a larger American flag to the top of Mount Suribachi and became one of the 6 men in the second flag raising. Okay, Peyton. Who was the man, along with Jonathan Wainwright, that was invited to witness the Japanese formal surrender on the deck of the USS Missouri? Before you answer that, let me hand you one of these to each of you, which I forgot to do yesterday. Put these in your notes right after the victory in the Philippines. And then I'm guessing, Peyton, you'll be able to answer this question once you look at the back of this handout.
Oh, so the thing's still made out?
Yep. So again, I'm looking for the man along with Jonathan Wainwright who was invited to witness the Japanese formal surrender on the deck of the USS Missouri.
Mr. Bird, can we get one more?
Oh, not one.
No, we're good.
Sorry. I just saw someone sitting behind us. General.
Along with British General
Arthur
Percival, that's right, Arthur Percival was the man, along with Jonathan Wainwright, in that photograph, who was invited to witness the Japanese formal surrender on the deck of the USS Missouri. He also was a prisoner of war, and if you look at his stature, does he look pretty skinny also? Yeah.
Where is that at?
It's on this.
Oh, this one. Oh, along with the thing.
Yep, okay. All right. Sully? Who was one of 5 brothers killed on the USS Juneau during the Battle of Guadalcanal, who threw himself off the life raft in despair of losing his siblings? There's only one that did that. One of the 5 brothers killed on the USS Juneau during the Battle of Guadalcanal, who threw himself off the life raft in despair of losing his siblings. It was George Sullivan, yeah. What did Al Sullivan do? He just allowed himself to drown. He was not on a life raft, he just succumbed to the waters and allowed himself to drown. But it was George that threw himself off the life raft. Okay?
Wait. Then did a shark eat him, or did he just like?
Drowned. Well, he probably later. But he drowned, yeah. Oh, I don't know if he got eaten by a shark, but I'm sure he might have. Okay, Julie, who was the Marine who was misidentified in his position in the photo of the second flag raising, but was clearly in the photograph? Marine who was Marine who was misidentified in his position on the photo of the second flag raising, but was clearly in the photograph. That would be Frank Sousley, Franklin R. Sousley. Joe, who was the man who created the bronze sculpture of the second flag raising at Iwo Jima that is on display in Washington, D.C. today? Yeah, who was the man who created the bronze sculpture of the second flag raising at Iwo Jima that is on display in Washington, D.C. today? Well, you should. If you took your notes, you would have had an idea. If I find it in your notes, you owe me a Diet Pepsi?
Wait, okay, but then there's.
You are slack here.
How about it, Caitlin? Felix de Weldon is right. Felix de Weldon.
I know.
And Kyra, who was the man who was ordered to drive the Japanese from the Solomon Islands in the defense of Australia? Who was the man who was ordered to drive the Japanese from the Solomon Islands in the defense of Australia? Okay? The man who was ordered to drive the Japanese from the Solomon Islands, early in our notes. Early in our notes. It's part of that strategy. Chester Nimitz planned the four-pronged attack.
William F. Hall.
That's exactly right, William F. Halsey. That's exactly right. Okay, those are the 15 names you're going to need to know for tomorrow. And then we'll go on to the short answer questions now. Peyton, my dear, what did the word kamikaze mean to the people of Japan? No, what's the word mean? What did the word kamikaze mean? Divine wind. Divine wind. Very good. Not necessarily. Yeah, let's put it first. Nice one, nice one. All right, here we go. There was a four-part strategy designed that the Allies would carry out against the Japanese in the Pacific Ocean by Admiral Chester Nimitz. Give me prong one, Porter.
American air, land, naval forces strike Japanese held islands. Reacquire those islands.
In the Pacific. Yeah. Air, land, and naval forces would strike at all Japanese held islands in the Pacific. In other words, all those islands that they had accumulated to defend their homeland would be reacquired by the Allies using air, land, and naval forces. So air, land, and naval forces would strike at all Japanese held islands in the Pacific. What was phase two, Aurora? It has to do with William Halsey. we just talked about.
That's what it, okay. The Allied fleet under William F. Halsey would go to Solomon Islands to drive Japan out in Pacific Australia.
Very good. Perfect answer, yeah. The Allied fleet under American Admiral William F. Halsey would drive the Japanese from the Solomon Islands. Phase three, Andrew?
MacArthur would return to Australia and take over
He would what?
Sorry?
Yeah, General MacArthur would advance from Australia with troops and regain control of the Philippine Islands. And Emily, what was prong four? Attack the mainland of Japan. Now, you'll need to know all four of those in order, okay? The question is, name the four-part strategy design that the Allies would carry out against the Japanese in the Pacific Ocean. We're looking for prong one, prong two, prong three, and prong four. Okay. Sully, I want you to explain how one American soldier explained his ability to survive the Battle of Tarawa. Okay? How did one American soldier explain, we're looking for a quote, his survival during the Battle for Tarawa? And the quote doesn't have to be exact, it just has to be pointed.
He said it was like going under a waterfall and not getting wet.
Okay, how about walking through? Going under wouldn't get you wet, right? Think about that. He said that surviving was like walking through a waterfall and not getting wet. Yeah, going under, that's pretty good because actually you wouldn't get wet if you went under, right? Brian? What gift had General Douglas MacArthur given Major General Jonathan Wainwright that ended up misinterpreted from its original meaning? Meaning, not meaning. Let me read it again. What gift had General Douglas MacArthur given Major General Jonathan Wainwright that ended up misinterpreted from its original meaning?
What?
C word. What's the name of the walking stick that starts with a C?
Cane?
A cane. He gave him a cane. He gave him a cane.
Show his power. Or...
Wait up. Yeah, all you do is he gave him a cane. Okay. Caitlin,
Where is that at?
It's
It's
remember
like
that.
it's on your sheet I just gave you that we told you about later. Remember?
Wait, so what was the other question again?
Which one?
The one you just asked, Brian.
What gift had General Douglas MacArthur given Major General Jonathan Wainwright that ended up misinterpreted from its original meaning? He gave him a cane. Now, Caitlin, you're going to answer the second part of that question. Why was that gift misinterpreted? In other words, why did he give him the gift in the first place, and what did he end up using it for?
He was given the cane as a symbol of his rank.
Very good. He was given the cane as a symbol of his rank. Really not to be used, right?
But then-
That's something you display, right? Hey, General MacArthur gave me this as a symbol of my rank. But he ended up,
Using it to support his weight because he
yeah, he ended up using it to support his weight because he could barely walk. That was the misinterpretation. It was given to him by General MacArthur as a symbol of his rank, something you might display on a room like this, never use. Unfortunately for Wainwright, because of the fact that he was a POW and had suffered so badly, he ended up using that cane to hold up his weight because he was so weak and couldn't walk without it. So something to that effect. I thought that was kind of a great question. Peyton, how often was an American Marine killed during the initial storming of the beaches of Iwo Jima? How often was an American Marine killed during the initial storming of the beaches of Iwo Jima? Every 30 seconds. Every 30 seconds. Andrew, how much longer did the fight for Iwo Jima last after the famous photograph of the second flag raising? After that photo was taken, how long did the battle for Iwo Jima last? Was it over as soon as they lifted the flag
It
up?
was like a month or something.
You're close. I need the exact number of days. How much, let me help Andrew. How many days did the entire battle last start to finish? 36. So how many days did it last after the flag raising, which occurred on the 5th day? 31, yeah! There's an AP Calc kid for you right there. Atta boy.
Wait, you sure to take the class last year?
Kyra, what was the name of the Marine unit that initially stormed the summit of Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima?
This needs to be in quotes.
Yep. What was the name of the Marine unit that initially stormed the summit of Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima?
The Easy Company.
Easy Company. Very good. Now, if it's in quotations on the ID sheet, then you would need to put it in quotations on the test. So is Divine Wind on the ID sheet?
No.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Where? You
Somewhere.
think I'm not in quotes?
No, it is.
Divine Wind is
So
not-
Divine Wind would not need to be in quotations.
But
Okay.
Easy Company.
Easy Company is. Thank you very much.
D-I-V-I-N.
Okay, here we go. Aurora, what was the name of the battle for Iwo Jima referred to as? It had its own kind of special name. What did they call the Battle of Iwo Jima? What did they refer to it as?
Oh, D-Day in the Pacific.
The D-Day in the Pacific is exactly right. Ryan, give me one of the two items that made the determination that identification of the Marine missing from the famous photograph of the second flag raising at Mount Suribachi was indeed that man. I'll read it again. Give me one of the two items that made the determination that identification of the Marine missing from the famous photograph of the second flag raising at Mount Suribachi was indeed that man. His rifle was misslung, or you could put the sling of his rifle was not attached in the correct spot. Okay? Julie, what was the other item that determined that he was he? His helmet strap was unbuckled. Very good. His helmet strap was unbuckled. Perfect. So his rifle sling was not attached in the proper position, or you could say it was attached too high up on the rifle, right? Too close to the barrel. It was attached closer to the barrel than it should have been. Those types of things. And the second part was that his helmet strap was not buttoned or attached. I just think that's such an incredible story. It's unbelievable. Okay, last question. Caitlin, what was the name of the famous photograph that was used to make this positive identification? Gung-ho photograph. Is that in parentheses?
Yes.
There you go. The gung-ho photograph. Well, there you are, kiddos. That is your test for tomorrow. I want to show you, did I show you the video on the plaid shirt guy?
No.
Oh, I want to show you that.
Oh,
Yes, you may.
late when we still had in my account that a picture of the president guy in Donald Trump, he just looks like so grumpy.
All right, let me tell you about the plaid shirt guy. He said, okay, when Donald Trump spoke, did I not tell you this story?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember the guy that was behind him and got removed?
Yeah.
You had a video?
Okay. All right, well, remember the story, the kid from Billings West got VIP tickets to Trump, and they stuck him behind him, and the idea is you're supposed to, you know,